when you get a new iPhone, when you get a Samsung phone, you get a new device, there's a lot of features for that phone. And most people are probably not even using, 80% of those features. They're probably using the same 20 features, right? The phone, 20% of the features. And ClickFunnels is the same way. There's nuances. There's things it can do, can't do. There's things that you could do some custom coding to do certain things. And I think sometimes people try it out, they get frustrated, they can't figure out how to make it work, and then they end up giving up.
Are you a solopreneur looking to 2 times your revenue to fund your lifestyle and give back? Well, this podcast is for you. We bring you inspirational guests sharing actionable tips to solve many of the struggles you face each and every day. And now over to your host, Paul Higgins.
Hello to the Build, Live, Give podcast. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. And if you're a regular, thanks for your support. Love to get your feedback at paul@buildlivegive.com. Today, our guest, Joel, worked for Intel, and they had amazing benefits and he had a great career. But the site was due to close as it just couldn't keep up with the demands of the technology and the advancements. So it closed down, and it was around the same time that his daughter was having medical issues. So he started supporting 2 icons in the industry and now helps solopreneurs to get more leads and revenue. So why listen? How to build funnels with ClickFunnels. It's a masterclass. What the biggest struggles people face when building funnels and how to overcome them, and how to scale your business whilst caring for people that you love. So now I'll hand you over to Joel Lewis from Integrator & Co. Welcome, Joel Lewis from Integrator & Co. to the Build, Live, Give podcast. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you, Paul. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, look, it's great to have you on. So why don't we kick off with something that your family or friends would know about you that we don't?
Well, I am one of those crazy CrossFitters. I love CrossFit, and I wake up at my classes at 5:30 in the morning. Usually I get up and run a mile or so before I actually go to class, just to warm up these old bones.
Great. Now, when did were you in it before it became popular?
No, I wasn't. Actually, I heard about it for many of years. And, like everyone else, I think a lot of us heard the negatives, right? Injury. And I stayed away from it for a very long time until I got my office here, and I started seeing these crazy people running by my office window every single day at multiple times a day with holding, bags in their hand and kettlebells and everything like that. And eventually I decided to take a look, and I fell in love about 2.5 years ago.
Brilliant. And someone listening right now that is sort of on the fence, what would you say is the biggest benefit to you of having done CrossFit?
Just think about rolling out of bed. If there's so many things that keep you from going to the gym, right? And, just the whole momentum to get out of bed, which I could probably talk about that forever, and some tips on that. But, one of the big things is what am I going to do when I get there? How do I stay motivated? I'm by myself. And CrossFit, you just have to get yourself there. The instructor is there. The community is there. The workout's already set for you. You just have to show up. Once you show up, you're done. You don't have to worry about what to, is this an upper body day, lower body day? It's all there.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, I'll have to give that a go. I'm still at Pilates stage after a little bit of an op this year. I'm slowly building my fitness. So maybe, next year, that could be a goal for me. Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
So, look, I know you had a great career in Intel for over 14 years, and then you left in August of 2015. Why did you leave? What was the key reason?
Well, and there's a number of reasons, but the main catalyst was when my oldest daughter, Anya, who was born in 2008, and Intel's a great company. Every 7 years, you're able to get a 2-month paid sabbatical, and it just worked out that it was actually my 7-year mark when she was born. And my wife and I decided that she'll take maternity leave. I think she had about 8 weeks. And Intel gave me the 2-month paid sabbatical. They didn't have paternity leave then. They do now. Thank goodness. But the sabbatical worked out. And my wife, when she had 6 weeks, 2 weeks remaining out of her 8 weeks, I started my sabbatical. We had 2 weeks as family together. And then I had 6 weeks alone with my daughter, and it was just absolutely amazing. I love children, always loved children, did daycare, babysitting when I was young,
Yeah.
but it was just amazing to be able to be there, be present, see a lot of the first of everything, and be the primary caregiver for my daughter. And at the same time, I was still being the primary breadwinner for my family because Intel was still paying.
Mm.
So after that, even though I was this corporate guy and I wanted to climb the corporate ladder, which I did over the 14 years, I realized, is there another way to have freedom, like this true freedom, and still be able to provide for my family? And that was the catalyst. That started it all. From there was podcasts and, reading blogs and, probably the journey that a lot of your listeners have gone through.
Yeah, great. And tell us the day you resigned. Take us to that moment. How did that feel?
Yeah. So in a way, one of my friends who also worked at Intel, he jokes and says Intel left him, like Intel left us. So here in Massachusetts, the Intel site wasn't built Intel from the ground up. It was actually acquired by Intel in, I don't know, 99 or whatever. And so it wasn't built with Moore's law, meaning like it wasn't built to expand for mass production, right? So as technology grew, these sites also have to grow. And when they build them from the ground up, they build them knowing that they could, there's going to be an evolution, and at least the site could make the next evolution. And this site wasn't. So we stayed open for a number of years, way longer than anyone expected. But eventually they decided to pull the plug and close down. And fortunately, at that point, I had already started my journey. Fortunately for me, I had already started my journey, and my wife and I made the tough decision of, do I move to the West Coast, stay with Intel, 6-figure salary, all that kind of stuff, golden handcuffs, benefit stock, or do we double down on this entrepreneur thing? And we burned the ship and went all in.
Yeah, brilliant. And was it easier or harder than you thought when you first burnt that ship?
It was. It wasn't easy. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if it was. Okay, it was harder because we have, and maybe we'll get into it a little bit more. My daughters all have medical conditions. And literally after Intel closed, like it just spiraled out of control. We were almost every 6 weeks. It was like I could, mark it on the calendar. We were in the emergency room, and it was emergency room operation, and all three of them. At the time, my middle daughter was fine. She wasn't actually having any issues. Hers developed a little bit later in life, but my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter, it was a disaster. So it was harder in that regards, but, and I don't know if it's okay if I mention, but I have a podcast called Startup Dad Headquarters, and I had started that podcast way back when, and that was part of my journey. And in that podcast, I was interviewing successful entrepreneur dads to figure out the formula so that when I finally do make the leap, I make it with strategy, with plan, with like what works, what haven't worked. So because I did that investigation and interviewed 140 plus successful entrepreneur dads, I didn't make a lot of the mistakes that I think some business owners make, or entrepreneurs or freelancers make right out of the gate, like getting an office space. I did that right away, even before I even had the money to afford an office space. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that's great. And if you don't mind, what condition do the three girls have?
That's one of the challenges. It's not Crohn's. It's not Hirschsprung's. It's something that they don't actually have a name from, but it's in that GI related realm. Whereas my youngest daughter actually has a ileostomy, which is a bag. So she actually stools into the bag. Prior to the ileostomy, she had a succostomy, which for 3 years, I think roughly, we were at night, every night before she went to bed, we actually had to flush her colon, her large intestine. And it was a 2-hour ordeal easily. So you can imagine with kids, you go to someone's birthday party, you go to a family event, usually those things end a little bit later. You get home at 8, and she's up for 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night because we have to do this procedure with her and I say we, it was mainly my wife. Thank God my wife is a NICU nurse. God gives you what you can handle, and fortunately my wife is a NICU nurse and she's able to handle most of this for our family.
And I know that you can't go back and change time, but if you look at the conditions and what your daughters have and what you just explained, how much more difficult would have that been if you were still at Intel?
Oh, significantly more difficult. Oh my goodness. I mean, Intel is a great company. And like I mentioned, and our, two of our girls, all three of our girls were born prior to me leaving Intel. And my oldest daughter we were already going, like she was kind of like the test bed, right? Like she had, first, I think 6 months after she was born, she went 28 days without stooling. So we were already on the investigation path. So we were already having a lot of issues, and Intel was very accommodating and stuff like that. But I was a manager. I was a senior manager. I had 35 employees at one point. I was also hiring manager for 2 of the shifts. So I had a lot of responsibilities. So Intel was very accommodating, but with the way things ratcheted up with all 2 of the girls and then now all 3, the amount of times I've had to, rush out of this office. Our specialist is in Boston. I live in Massachusetts, and that's an hour and a half with traffic. The amount of times I've had to leave here to head out there, and the amount of appointments and surgeries, Intel again is great, and I'm sure I could have done medical leave of absence and all that kind of, but it would have just been more difficult. Another manager would have had to manage my team. It would have been significantly more difficult than me owning my own business and being able to kind of control my time.
Yeah, and look, that's the reason why I left. Coca-Cola. I haven't worked at Intel, but great icon companies, and they would have been very supportive. But even now, when I go to clinic, and they say, "Would you like a medical certificate?" And it always puts a bit of a smile on my face because I set up everything so that anything that happened with my health,
right,
I could manage that working for myself. So
yes.
I'm inspired what you do, and also others listening now that have we talk about freedom, but it's also so important to have that time to give to our families. You talk about podcasts, and that was a really smart idea of basically interviewing people to not make the mistakes, and that's a bit about why I do this podcast now. Not that I do it unfortunately past the event rather than pre. But who else mentored you and supported you as you started to build this business?
Well, one of our mutual friends, Jaime Masters, was the first big investment I made in my business was one of her programs. I don't think she offers that program anymore. It was called Millionaire Hustlers. So her entire brand is Eventual Millionaire.
Yes.
Yes. And actually one of her podcasts was in 2013. I heard her and Dan Miller interview with Dan Miller, and I got the book 48 Days to the Work You Love. And that, I could go into that one and share so much about that, but that really helped me figure out my superpower, what I wanted to do. And then Jamie's program helped me kind of hone that in and everything like that. So I always give, whenever I can, huge credit to Jaime and Dan Miller and their book. They really helped me to, along with the podcast, to really build this business in the right way. So that, like I mentioned, shortly after Intel closed down, it spiraled down for us. And because I had already set up certain things in the business, I was able to, be able to be there for my family while the business was still generated revenue. And this is very, very shortly after Intel shut down.
Yeah, so big shout out to Jaime. So she's mentoring me at the moment, and she's been an absolute huge support, especially during my health journey. Yeah. But just if you look at both Jaime and Dan, you've been behind the scenes building funnels, which we'll get to in a moment for both of them. What's just one thing you could share with people listening now on what you learned from watching these, brilliant players at work?
Yeah, I actually, my relationship with Jaime has it's evolved in so many ways. At one point, I was actually working for her. And that was also shortly after Intel shut down, after I went through her program. So by working with her, it's almost like you get to see, I knew what I wanted. I wanted a business like Jamie's. So by working with her, I was actually able to see the behind the scenes of what it takes to be that eventual millionaire, right? So that was very, very helpful. And then Dan Miller, it just, again, really, I'd like sometimes to say I'm a jack of all trades, and maybe a lot of us entrepreneurs and stuff probably are. And I could get distracted very easily and all that kind of stuff. But when you're a jack of all trades and you're trying to build a business and you're trying to figure out what is the one thing I'm passionate about that I could continue to do for a long term, right? Not just a shiny object thing or something I could make a quick buck off of. And something that I could really bring value to the world. I couldn't answer that question until I went through the activities in that book, 48 Days to the Work You Love. So those were the really big impacts that those two made for me. Hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, no, that did. That was great. So we'll go into the build section next. And I know we've been building up to really say what you do now. But when people say, hey, Joel, how do you help coaches, consultants, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs? How do you answer that?
Yeah, the way I answer that is I help those individuals, like you mentioned, in two ways. Primarily getting more leads and generating more revenue online on autopilot. Okay, and that's primarily what I do. And then secondarily, so usually the engagement starts, like I mentioned, where, hey, I need more leads. I need to generate more revenue. I want to automate something that I have a successful product or service, and I want to automate it, get more leads, warm up the traffic, and build that know, like, and trust. And we do that through funnels, using funnels, sales funnels. And then the next evolution is when I work with a client and we are able to get them those level of results, their business starts to grow. And then what tends to happen is their business is growing. They have so many moving parts. And with any business, as you grow to a certain point, maybe you're the solopreneur at the beginning, or maybe you have a VA or what have you, you need to start to put systems and processes in place. Because now things are automated and you're trying to grow and scale in different ways. That is where the integrator part of my company name comes from. So there's this book called Rocket Fuel. And in the book, and again, credit to Jaime, she introduced me to the book. In the book, it talks about there's a visionary. In every business, there's a visionary and there's a integrator. And the integrator is the person that basically takes the vision of the visionary, who may be all over the place and wants everything to happen fast. And the integrator is the person that goes into the details, organizes things, puts systems and processes in place, manages the team, makes sure that projects are moving forward. And that's the higher level. I don't talk about that much, but that's the higher level service that I offer my clients once they get to that point through the work that we help them to do in terms of getting more leads and generating more revenue.
Brilliant. So I know you're a ClickFunnels expert and extraordinaire.
Yes.
When we spoke previously, you said you've used lots of platforms,
yes,
and landed on ClickFunnels. Just tell everyone listening now why you landed on ClickFunnels and what are the benefits of ClickFunnels.
Yeah, I am a serial beta tester, so I buy things in beta all the time. I wish I did that with stock, right? Like, let me get Apple stock, right?
Yeah.
I'd be a millionaire right now, right? So, I was a beta tester for Lead Pages when it first came out, and all these other platforms, but. And I love Lead Pages for a very long time. We've used Kajabi, we've used Entrepreneur, we've used Opt-in, Optimized Press, and all this kind of stuff. Unbounce, which I don't know if a lot of people have heard of Unbounce.
Yes.
And ClickFunnels, for one main reason, is same team, same designer that I have on my team, same strategy. We could build something in Kajabi, or we could build something in Entreport, on, Entre Pages is what they call it. And we do not get the conversion rates that we get with ClickFunnels. So it's just something about ClickFunnels, even though we try to design these other platforms as nicely as we can and make sure that they got the right copy and all that. And for us, design is very important. I know everyone says copy. Copy with beautiful design makes a difference. And with ClickFunnels, we're just able to design it, get the good copy, and we get higher conversion rates on ClickFunnels than we can on any other platform that we've tested to date. And then, of course, ClickFunnels just makes it super easy in terms of upsells and downsells and all that kind of stuff. Whereas Lead Pages, I remember building funnels for Jaime, or putting things together for Jaime, where we tried to connect, from the main offer to another page, and it's just not as easy to do in Lead Pages. At least back then. I don't know if they've improved, recently.
Great. And as you said, what are most people moving from to ClickFunnels?
That's a good question. What are they moving from? At first, it was Lead Pages. So a lot of our clients were Lead Pages users. We've had everything. Kajabi. We've had Infusion. Some people just have Infusionsoft, so they don't actually have a funnel. They just had something built inside it. Infusionsoft like an order form, whatever. We've had. I recently had someone come from a what's that new platform?
Drip?
No, not Drip. Chronos. It's the same people that make Webinar Jam. I think it's the same owners that created Webinar Jam. So I had someone come. They tested that platform out, and then they came back to us.
That's it. I'll get the name and put it in the show notes for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Great. And I know I'm an active campaign user, and many people in our community are. So, you would move from active campaign to ClickFunnels? Is
No.
It's an incremental.
No, so ClickFunnels, and actually ClickFunnels just made a big announcement a few weeks ago where, and this is very important for every business owner in terms of like, try to get focused on, in the presentation, Russell talks about like being the king at the thing, right? Don't try to be the jack of all trades and try to do everything. And ClickFunnels at one point, like in 2018, they rolled out Actionetics MD, which was going to have Messenger bot. And of course, they already had Actionetics, which is their email version of like Infusionsoft, if you will. They have Backpack, which is the affiliate commission stuff. And then they were going to incorporate all these other tools that do all these other things. And then they realized, so in this announcement he just made in a few weeks ago, he realized, we spread our developers too thin, and as opposed to just focusing on what we do great, which is the funnels, which is a model that I follow in my business. We don't do Facebook ads. We don't do copy. We help our clients with copy, but we expect our clients to know the copy best, but we help and guide them on the copy. We don't touch ads at all. Our focus is the funnel, and we're great at that, the strategy, the build, and all that kind of stuff. So in that announcement, I got a sense that ClickFunnels, what they plan on doing is what Salesforce does, is if you want to add something to the business, to the company, go find the king in that and either acquire them, which is what Salesforce is great at doing, or create a very strong partnership with them. And I think that's what ClickFunnels is going to be doing with like ActiveCampaign. I imagine ActiveCampaign is usually my next recommendation for someone who's just getting started. It's, MailChimp, Aweber, whatever. So, you could start with MailChimp, then Aweber, then Actionetics, which is ClickFunnels. And then once your list grows to a certain degree and you need to do segmentation and a lot of different automation, I do recommend ActiveCampaign. And then eventually you could grow to something like a HubSpot or Salesforce if your business grows that big.
Yeah, look, I think that's really smart. And so, for people listening, it's, so let's say you on Lead Pages, and currently that's what I use. You would migrate from Lead Pages to ClickFunnels.
Correct.
but you would still use Active Campaign as your marketing automation tool.
For your email, yep, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. And what do you see most? So I know you work with e-commerce coaches, consultancy, etc. What do you see most people struggle with sales funnels before they come and see you?
Obviously the technology is a big struggle. I think people try to, sometimes people try to figure it out themselves, and they didn't get the results that they expected. ClickFunnels does a great job at selling the product, and it is an amazing product. And if you're tech savvy, you could figure it out. But like I tell people, look, when you get a new iPhone, when you get a Samsung phone, you get a new device, there's a lot of features for that phone. And most people are probably not even using, 80% of those features. They're probably using the same 20 features, right? The phone, 20% of the features. And ClickFunnels is the same way. There's nuances. There's things it can do, can't do. There's things that you could do some custom coding to do certain things. And I think sometimes people try it out. They get frustrated. They can't figure out how to make it work. And then they end up giving up. So that's one thing. The other thing is, unfortunately, sometimes people do go and they figure out, hey, I don't want to do this myself. I want to hire someone. They go and hire someone, and there are certain agencies that, I don't agree with it. I'm sure there's a business model why, but they'll build the funnel in the agency's ClickFunnels account. And there's also Facebook ads agencies that do the same thing. They'll build the ad in their Facebook ad account, and they're basically kind of holding the customer hostage.
Mm-hmm.
And, they don't get the result, and then the customer loses everything. We've had a number, we've had individuals who, one of our clients, $65,000 they've invested, and they had nothing to show for it. It was insane.
That's like you said. I don't know why people do those business models as well, but unfortunately, they keep getting clients, and that's why I want to spread the word of great people like you, so that my community and other people can go to the right people in the industry rather than the wrong people. And just quickly before we move on to the next section, what's the best way for you to get leads for your business?
Our leads have been referrals. Our leads have been referrals. I think you and I talked about it before. Majority of we've been in business for about 3.5 years. And the referrals have been amazing. We've had some amazing clients who have just done us really well with sending us referrals. And now we're starting to actually do our own marketing. So we're doing LinkedIn. We're doing webinars on my website. We also have some training videos on there for different things as well to start driving our own marketing strategy.
Brilliant. Well, look, before we go into the next section, I'd just like to talk about my book called Build, Live, Give. Very original title. I go through the lessons I learned from leaving Coca-Cola to run my own business, similar to what Joel has done with Intel, how I scaled and kept it going whilst going through my recent transplant. I give you the 5 growth drivers, which I've used to help hundreds of solopreneurs to build, live, and give. Just go to buildlivegive.com/book to get your copy today. And there'll also be links in the show notes. So the next section is the live section, Joel. And I know we've covered a bit of that off already, but tell us some of the daily habits other than CrossFit that help you be successful.
I wanted to talk more about CrossFit. Well, let me share one that I recently shared on LinkedIn, which ended up trending in LinkedIn, which I was like, I'm trending in LinkedIn. So excited about that. It is, I read this book called The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins.
Yes.
And the 5-second rule talks about, I won't go into the too much detail, but it just talks about when you need to make a decision, just count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then make a decision, as opposed to procrastinating. So I talked about that, and then I also talked about not leaving your phone, your cell phone, your mobile phone by your nightstand. which is, two things I struggled with. One, the procrastination, because I'm a C in terms of the DISC profile. I'm I'm a processor, so it takes me a long time to make decisions. And then two, I had my phone next to my nightstand, which has always been a problem. I just didn't have a good strategy to get over that. So I started putting my phone in our bathroom. We have a master bathroom, and I started putting the phone there, and I set the alarm. And I also put my workout gear inside of the bathroom as well. And when the alarm goes off, I don't want my wife to wake up, because I wake up, really early in the morning.
Yeah.
And I pop out of bed, almost like a 5-second rule, if you will. And then I run into the bathroom. I close the door behind me, turn on the light, and then I shut off the phone. And then at that point, I've put so much like a resistance, if you will, to go back, right? To go back to bed. I've closed the door. I've locked myself into the bathroom, basically. I've turned on the light. So like now my eyes have been exposed to bright light. And my clothes, my workout gear is right there. Everything I need is right there. And I had to shut off the phone. So I've taken multiple actions to keep me from just saying, let me go back to bed. So really at that point, I've already given myself enough reason to just continue moving forward, regardless of how I feel, how tired I may be, or how sore I may be. I just put on my gear and get to CrossFit. And I already talked about that piece. Once you get there, getting there is just is half the battle, or more than half the battle.
Yeah, look, I love that. And every morning, well, actually this morning to get up, because it's a little bit earlier Melbourne time than what it is where you are in Massachusetts. And I did that exact same thing. The alarm went off. It was like countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, out. Yep. So I love it. Yes. Absolutely love it. So, we've talked about your partner or your wife, Colleen, and, her support of you through this journey. But, she's listening right now. What would you like to say to her directly?
I would say, this journey has been long, and it's only been 3.5 years, but it feels like it's been a lot longer. And she's been very supportive. I mean, I've talked to so many people who, they've had to convince their wives or do so many things just to get their wives to support, and some that never, the wives never supported their vision of starting a business and doing something different than what the world tells you to do. And throughout this entire journey, she's been, you've been amazing, not only in terms of supporting the business and this journey, the ups and downs, and there's definitely ups and downs, but also with all the medical issues, right? Like I said, she's a nurse, so she's she's comfortable. It's her element of dealing with that stuff, but she hasn't. There's not once I recall her like saying, like being angry at me because she's taking on the entire brunt of that responsibility. So.
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So the next section's the give section. What's a charity or a community that you support and why?
So one charity that we've been supporting is called Operation OR, Operation Underground Railroad. Sorry. So OR, the acronym is OR, OUR. And in 2018, I went to Funnel Hacking Live, which is a ClickFunnels conference. And I've never heard of OR before, but in 2018, they were there and ClickFunnels was supporting them as well. So throughout the conference, they kept talking about them. And then they actually showed us it wasn't released yet, but it was a documentary that they did. And it was based off of, or it deals with sex trafficking, kids being sex trafficking. And the documentary was based out of Haiti. And that's my background. My parents are from Haiti. I was born here, but it hit home. It was like, oh my, I didn't realize that was happening there. I actually didn't realize it was happening. Like America's like one of the big consumers of this. And I was like, I gotta do something. And that's when I started to support that organization. Or prior to that, it was another organization called Charity Water, which, in 2010, a group of friends and myself, we raised $10,000 in 24 hours for Charity Water, which basically gets water to third world, clean water to third world countries.
Brilliant. Well, the next and the last section is the action section. I'll ask you some questions and get some rapid fire responses. So the first one is, what are your top 3 personal effectiveness tips?
Oh man, I shared one in terms of the morning. Like the morning, you have to win the morning. You have to win the morning, and that is going to set you up for the rest of it. Even if the rest of your day is chaotic, and if you have children, it will be children and family. So win the morning. Second is use a time tracking tool like Toggle. So I use Toggle. My team use Toggle, and I know it's difficult as the owner to track your time. But every now and then, if you can, you track your time for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. See where your time is really going, and is your time going towards income generating activities, or are you just wasting time on things that you shouldn't be doing? So that'd be the second, and then the last one is time blocking, which is basically don't just walk into your office with no like set agenda of what you're going to do first, second, third. We hear all the time, like, do the most important things in the beginning of the day. Yep, that's true. But if you don't have it on your calendar or have it on a to-do list, you will get distracted by the world. So try not to check your email, try not to check your phone until you get those important things done. And it's very effective. And I know sometimes it's hard to continue doing that for a long term, but when you do it, you'll see the power in it, and you'll build the habit to do it more and more.
Great. Now, I know you love ClickFunnels, but what's one other piece of technology that you couldn't run your business without?
Couldn't run my business without. That's a really good one. I would say so many. We use a Dubsado. No, actually, let's ClickUp. We'll talk about ClickUp. It's our project management tool. So we've done Trello, Asana, Red Booth recently was the last one we were on. And then we just needed to level up and do more things. And now we're using ClickUp, which I don't know if most people know about it. It's click. So like you're clicking the mouse and then the word up. And that's it. Yeah. It's amazing. It's an amazing tool. And actually the free level is pretty powerful. We've now finally are on a paid version, but we used it for a very long time on the free level.
And the next question is, what's your best source for new ideas to improve your business?
So I actually, from a book that I read called Built to Sell by John Warlow. He talks about doing these little mini retreats, these mini self retreats, and actually October 30th, like late night after the kids go to bed, October 30th, I'm actually driving to the Berkshires, which is where our timeshare is, and I'm spending 2.5 days out there. Again, shout out to my wife for supporting this. I'm spending 2.5 days in our timeshare, and that is where I do all my strategic planning and everything like that. And that's how I've been able to level up my business and grown to where we are in just 3.5 years.
We'll leave the biggest question to the last, and that is, what impact do you want to leave on the world?
Yeah, and that's a really big question, because there's a number of things. Obviously, as a father, there's legacy, right? And I look at it in 2 ways. I look at the legacy I leave for my children and my wife, and giving them what I did not have growing up, giving them the life that I want them to have, or I want them to experience. But then there's also because of the work that we do as funnel builders, I'm not necessarily, I don't have a service. I don't have a cure for something, right? What I'm doing is a lot of our clients are healthcare professionals. A lot of our clients like e-commerce coaches, and they're helping through the work that we do by helping our clients scale their business. We're making an impact that way, where they're able to help free people to build their own business, build their own e-commerce platform, scale their business through their coaching. And a lot of our, like I said, a lot of our clients are healthcare professionals who deal with stem cell and thyroid and diabetes and weight loss and autoimmune disease. Oh my goodness, it's amazing what some of our clients do. And we get tremendous pride out of that. And, we're kind of like behind the scenes, helping our clients do that. And every now and then we get a shout out, which is great. But that's one way I'm, leaving. I feel like we're leaving an impact in the world.
Brilliant. Well, look, it's been so great having you on, Joel, today on the Build, Live, Give podcast. You can find out more about Joel and all the great work he's doing with ClickFunnels and integrations at Integrator, AND and Co. So it's Integrator, spell it ANDco.com. There'll also be links to this and everything else that Joel's mentioned in the podcast. And I forgot to ask prior, but is the Startup Dad Headquarters podcast, is that still going?
The podcast is still available, so you could get it on iTunes, Stitcher, all those different places. It's not. We're revamping it to Startup Dad Revolution, and I'm going to relaunch it because the first time I was the investigator trying to get the answers, and now I'm taking obviously a different position on it now because I've done it, built a successful business, and coming with a little bit more experience and a little bit more level of authority in terms of how I approach the podcast. So that will be coming out sometime soon.
Excellent. Well, look, you can get prior on all platforms at Startup Dad Headquarters, and can't wait for the Startup Dad Revolution to launch. So brilliant having you on the show today, Joel, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. I really enjoyed it as well, and thank you for having me on the show and waking up early to interview me.
Anytime, not as early as 5:30. Brilliant. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
That was such an inspiring interview with Joel. I can't wait to get him back on the show because he's got a lot more value to give. So you can get the show notes at buildlivegive.com. If you'd love to be a guest on the show, click the email logo on the homepage and reach out. If you'd like to build additional revenue streams to fund your lifestyle, go to buildlivegive.com/book and get my current book called Build, Live, Give. Links will also be in the show notes. So please take action to build your business, to fund your lifestyle, and give back.
Thank you for listening to the Build, Live, Give podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review. It would mean the world to us.